Good morning. Today is stave day for me. I have some of this hop hornbeam staves, like 4 of them that are in the garage, and I'm going to trim them up, shape them up, and this way they could dry. And one of them I want to make a duplicate bow, a nice bow without the hump. Okay, I want to get one that don't have a knot, and I want that to be a perfect hunting bow. Perfect. All right. Now this is finicky wood. I had problems with it splitting. It's very, very hard. You go to bend it, it don't want to bend. You know what I mean? You have to heat it up to put it on the back set jig. If you clamped it on the back set jig and you went to bend the limb down for the jig, you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. You want to almost feel like you're going to snap the wood before it go down that little bit on the back set jig. So you have to heat it. So this is a really hard wood. And the thing I found about it, after talking to Keith Shannon, I learned to brown it and brown it at the fade outs and ignore the time, all the little tips he gave me, was that this is an incredible hard hitting shooting bow. And I got it cut and shaped. It was so accurate. My shoulder hurts today. I actually shot so many times. I went out in the woods. I got to sit out in the woods yesterday with it too. And I won't take a bow in the woods unless I know I'm going to hit. And I'm only going to shoot 10 and 15 yards, and I know I can't miss. Anybody can miss, but you know what I'm saying? It's within that doable range. So anyway, I'm out there sitting there, and the neighbors, there's like, I'm shooting, you know, it's a suburb, you know, rural area, but not really rural. There's houses here scattered here and there. So a few acres over, you know, 1,000 yards over, the neighbors are having this really big party. And at least they were playing some oldies music. I got to listen to some oldie music sitting in the stand. And when I was there, it was just about, we're allowed to hunt for a half an hour after sunset. So I had about 10 minutes to go, and I saw my phone. I have my phone on silent, and I don't know if you know, with the iPhones, you can tap them 3 times and the screen will turn red. It'll turn red so it don't show up, you know, if you're going to try and record your hunting experience. And I saw the name, and the name is, I had my neighbor who does cuts trees and landscaping. I had him come over to my house, and he put down some mulch all around my property for me, and I paid him, and he's a tree guy. And I said, listen, if you ever get these woods, you know, when I mentioned all the woods, that was him. I saw his name. I said, all right, nothing's around. This guy's got some wood for me. I gotta call him back. So I called this guy back, and he says, Joe, I hope I'm not disturbing you. I said, nah, I'm sitting in a tree, the end of hunting. I says, and I haven't seen nothing. I'm sitting here listening to music. So next week I'm cutting down these 2 really big, I'm cutting down this one really big hickory tree that I looked at it, and the trunk has 2 big, straight, perfect sections that I could get you 2 big, straight, 6-foot sections out of it. I said, oh, that's awesome. I says, I appreciate it. Whatever you want me to pay you, you let me know and I'll pay you. He says, okay, I'll let you know when I get them. So I have more hickory wood lined up. Okay, but I want to just get back to this for a minute. What I'm doing today is I'm going to trim up the 4 staves I got. I want to trim up because they were so soaking wet that I figure I'd trim them up, shape them, get them smaller size, and I want to pick the one that's the best. And like I said, make a duplicate bow, because I think this is the ultimate in hard-hitting speed. It really is. Such a crazy pain in the neck to work with, but when you're done and you got it finished and fire hardened properly, can't beat it. Can't beat it. So anyway, that's it. Stave day today. Trimming them up. Not a big video. I had my nice microphone. You saw my nice microphone. I found out it was $23. Those microphones are $23 on Amazon. So after shooting in the back, I'm all happy and all. I'm getting ready. I'm going to go change. And then instead of taking the phone off and putting it in my pocket, I'm carrying the stand back in the house, and the phone falls off and hits the stoop, the stairs, you know, the wooden stairs going up in the back of my house. And I look and I'm like, the piece that plugs in the phone just like blew apart. You know, the little piece that blew apart. So I got on Amazon and I said, this is too good. The audio is too good. You know, no matter where I walk, you can hear me. I'll order another one. Great, Amazon. It'll be here today. $23. So, all right, that's all. Just share my stories with you, all right? I didn't get any deer. I got some footage, you know, just of me out up in a tree. I was out with the recurve, and I have a footage of a deer behind me, you know, a doe walking through some thick stuff that, you know, you can't take those shots. It's unethical. You know, there was no clear shot. And I'm going to keep going out. Maybe I'll get a, if I do get one, okay, and it's at my friend's tree farm there. He's got a tree farm, so I'm going to take whatever comes. You know, he wants me to, if it's a doe, it's a doe. If it's a little small, it's small. I'm not trophy hunting. Anything that, you know, it's your tag and your choice. And I'm just going for meat and helping my friend get some deer out. And if it's smaller, it's tenderer for me. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking any fawns because you wind up with a little baggie full of meat. It ain't worth it. But if I take a young doe with a bow I made from a tree, because the bows I have, I made, they were living trees this year and cut down. I made bows with them. So if I take a deer, I'll post the video. All right? That's all. And I'll flash back as I progress with this here. If I get a couple, I'll line them up on the trailer and you can take a look at them. Though I remove most of the bark, you know, these have to be cleaned up. So what I'm doing is I'm going to clean them up with the draw knife and scrape off all that extra bark or dried up bark that's on there. And this way I can really look and evaluate where I'm going to run the center line. Okay. Update what I'm doing. I'm cleaning up this bark, making these staves a little more cleaner to see where I'm going to lay it out. And I'm using the draw knife and I'm using the bevel down side. And you see it's like a V. So what I do is I have it laying flat. I'm not trying to teeter it on the point. I have one side flat, I scrape half and I'll flip it and I'll scrape the other side on the other flat, okay? Just to clean it up. Just to look and see what we got underneath. And I know that, like in June, July, when the sap's flowing through wood, bark comes off real easy. And now it's fall and it really don't. But like I said, I'm grateful to get any wood I can get. And if I have to do a little work with the draw knife, you know, it's good for me. It's exercise. Like those hickory logs, my friend's going to get for me. My neighbor, you know, and I'm going to buy from him. If the bark don't come off like the spring, I'll do what I have to do. I'm going to split the staves, you know, axe and wedges in a sledge. And when I get them all separated, I'm going to seal the ends, and I'll see how the bark comes off. And if it don't come off easy, that's okay. That's okay. I got wood at a fraction of what I was paying for it, you know, online, you know what I mean? And I know what I got. So, all right, just a little update, cleaning it up, and then I'll lay it out. I got 4 of them, so, you know. Okay, I snapped the chalk line, a preliminary chalk line down of where I'm going to have the layout. But there's been many times where that has changed as I started drawing the layout. But just the snap line, the chalk snap line is a good thing to have. Okay, these flexible rulers are cheap. You know, you get them online, or a lot of times the local stationery stores or places don't have them. And they're fairly inexpensive. And what it does is it gives you a center and you can mark off the edges. So what I do with this, I mark, what I do with this is I'm going to mark 3/4 on each side. And what I do is I put the line on the outside of the chalk line, you know, 1, 2, 3. Okay, you can make it a little wider if you want. 1, 2, 3. Okay, for like a lift, like the width of the limbs. Okay, And after I get a few of these laid out, I'm going to get the metal straight ruler, yardstick that I have, and I'm going to connect the dots. And I'll show you. I just figured I want to be clear on something. When you lay out a bow, you want to lay it out with the grain. These particular staves are fairly straight grain, and that center line was from one grain. I looked from one end to the other straight, but you're going to get sometimes you know, snaky pieces of wood that are going to be your staves. And what you're going to do then is take a center line, you know, follow a grain and put little dashes as it goes like this. You may have a, you know, grain that goes up and down or around or whatever, and you follow that and then connect those dots, and then you're going to go off of that. All right, so every piece of wood's different. The other thing too is, you know, really, if you wanted to trim it up wide, and I'm using a bandsaw, but if you trimmed it up really wide and used the draw knife to follow the grain with the blade down, you know, taking it the thickness thinner, that should follow the pattern of the grain. The draw knife should follow the grain and take it down, and should flow with the grain. Okay. Trimming off the excess. Yeah, have it rough trimmed, okay, the length. And the only thing I want to mention here is, you know, I use a bandsaw. And if you're ever going to use any kind of power tools, and you never did before, don't. Okay, I don't care if you got to find a local cabinet maker or somebody who really knows woodworking, and tell them, hey, can you give me a lesson on how to use these tools? Okay, when I was younger, you know, I'm 65 now. Do I really remember everything from when I was younger? No. But when I was in high school, I had woodworking, I had advanced woodworking. Okay, these bandsaws, if you're cutting wood and you twist it a little, it could come off the track, you could break the blade could come out. There's a lot of dangerous things that could happen. I try to watch where my hands are. I try to keep my hands behind the saw and pull it through holding it so it don't torque. I try to pull it through so it don't torque and keep my hands behind it. And the other thing I do is, wherever I have the pattern, sometimes it twists, okay? And what I'll do is I try to keep it flat as I'm pulling it through. And if it twists, I'll try to slowly, as it's cutting, cut it so that it cuts with that twist, okay? And don't torque it, don't wedge it, don't jam it. I just kind of let the saw do the work and I pull it through. And if you ever going with the saw and you start going somewhere you don't want to do, and you could just hold it still and hit the off button and hold it until it stops, do that. I would recommend doing that. Never try to back out of the saw, because you could pull it off the rollers and dangerous things could happen. If you're cutting and you cut out and leave a little extra, don't stop, pull it through. You know, I'd rather you have more extra. You can always sand it off, but pull it all the way through. Don't try to back up and cut with a saw, all right? And once again, I'm not giving any instruction here. I'm just telling you what I do. And I'm telling you, if you're inexperienced with a saw, a power tool, don't use it. I'm telling you, don't use it. I'm telling you, go get somebody, like a local, a real carpenter too. You have backyard carpenters. You have guys that really know what they're doing. You know, when you look at a guy's shop and he's got every tool there is and he's making all kinds of things, that's the guy you want to teach you on how to be safe. Always watch me. Look at me. I cut my finger. You saw I cut my finger, right? What I was doing was I was guiding a piece of wood, which I knew better. And as I'm cutting this piece of wood, it was through some, I guess, thick grain. All of a sudden, I hit some soft grain, and it started to go, and I stopped, but it just touched it. just touched my finger and I got stitches. I had to go, I hold my hand, you know, driving with my hand taped up to the hospital. I cut my finger, I got to get some stitches. And that was me being careful, okay? Me knowing better, all right? So I'm telling you, don't use power tools. Use the draw knife. If it takes you a week to get down the line, it's better. You're actually following the grain structure, okay? But if you're ever going to use power tools, like I said, look around. Not a backyard guy. Get some guy that's got a shop and tools, power tools, and he's making stuff. And say, listen, I just want to be safe. Can you give me a lesson on whatever tool it is? You know, and if you got to pay the guy, you pay the guy. It's worth it, okay? So that's it. I'm going to lay out a profile on the side. All right, and we'll get back to you. Okay, just so you know, I have this marked out. And what I have here is from the end of the fade out to the end of the fade out is going to be 9 inches, okay? But the riser is actually probably going to be around 5.5, all right? This is a tool I bought on eBay to put a line and follow the grain. I used to use my hand and hold it, and I did a really good job, but this was inexpensive. And what you do is I've been making them all 5/8. The last one I went 1/2 inch because I was going to take my time, but you're better off leaving 5/8. And you draw a line on both sides, okay? Look. And then check it. Okay, we got to redo this. Yeah, I thought it was set up. All you do is make a little mark and then measure it. A little more than 5/8, gonna come back. And okay, that's the 5/8 I'm looking for, okay? So once you always double check you'd rather have a little more material than not enough. If you're using a draw knife or whatever this thing is, you still mark both sides with this, okay? See how it follows? It follows the back of the bow. It follows the back of the bow, gives you a line to follow. Okay? See, it gives you a nice line to follow, okay? And then I'm going to do the same on the other side, okay? And what I'm going to do with these fade outs is I'm going to use a handsaw at the end of the fade outs and make a cut down carefully until I touch the lines, okay? That will be, so I have where it'll be a relief cut. As I cut it off, or you use a draw knife, you'll come to that and it'll be a nice clean ending, okay? What I do is, as I'm making this relief cut, I'm not going straight down, I'm holding it out on an angle, and I'm going with the saw gently until I get to the line. Okay, and like I said, it's just going to be a relief cut. Then what I do is, on the other side, okay, you see it's a little higher because I held it on an angle. I don't want to go past that line. I'm still holding on an angle. I'm going to cut down to that line. and then very carefully just make a couple of strokes, okay? And that's it. This way when I trim off this section and I hit here, it'll come off, okay? And you better have more material than less. And the other tool that I really like, is the belt sander. You know, I have a 36-inch, 4-inch wide belt sander. And I'm very careful with that too. That could take off a chunk of skin off your hand too. But what that'll allow me to do is, it'll allow me from this point here, you notice that the handle's a little wider. But what it'll allow me to do is to go into that rise of that handle and shape it as I'm going down. I could back it up into it, and the belt will hit it, and it'll make it a nice curve, okay? And they sell gloves that are no-cut gloves, but if you're going to wear gloves, they used to tell me, I believe when I was in school, they said don't wear gloves because you're afraid that they're going to catch on the machinery. All right, but if they have now they have gloves that don't really want to cut through to protect your hands. If you get tight-fitting gloves and you're just sanding, okay, and you accidentally hit the belt, no skin comes off, all right? But whatever you do, even a belt sander, like I said, if you find a guy with a shop, go talk to them and say, give me a lesson. I'm never ashamed to learn something from somebody. So, and if you're going to learn something from somebody, go to somebody who knows or has all the equipment in the shop and they're making stuff, okay? That's all. I know I keep repeating this. I repeated this a couple times, but your safety is really important. And it's important that you learn from somebody who's knowledgeable and been doing this, all right? Not me. Some guy that's been working on machines making things, okay? Okay, once we're at this point, now I recommend you use a draw knife, okay? I recommend that you use a draw knife to slowly take with the blade side down, the bevel down, and remove material, okay? You'll learn a lot more. You'll get to, by the time you're done, you'll have a good feel for the draw knife. And you got a lot of material that's garbage material, you know, that you shouldn't be afraid of wasting. And you can take it down. And then, like I said, once you take it down to that line, then you could do other things, you know. You could use a belt sander to take it down. You could use a rasp. Some people say yay and nay on a rasp, but you could use a rasp to take it down, okay? And it's safer. You don't take off too much wood. Okay, I just figured I'd show you, bevel side down. Here's a line. Let's say you want to go down to this line here. And there's a little bit of meat there, okay? Slide the draw knife on an angle like this, you see? See the material coming off nice and easy. I'm not being aggressive. I'm just getting down to that line, okay? And then do the same on the other side. Get down to that line. Okay? And then once you do, then you can go across the top because it'll be skinnier. But don't try to go across the top and take off material. Try to get the line first and then go over it, okay? This is pretty close. I'm just giving you a quick idea of what's going on here, okay? So, and then with the rasp, I'm going to show you with a rasp. Okay, instead of the rasp, I got the file. I'm going to show you with the file. What you do with the file is, you don't want to go out like this because you don't want the end grains flaking. So what you do is, you'll go in like this towards the wood. Go in. Okay, go in on this side. Okay, and then the top you can go across. Okay, but never go out to the edges. You don't want it to split out on you, okay? Okay, so I just want to show you that even though I use the belt sander, I recommend that you don't use power tools until you really know what you're doing. And even then, with the power tools, all it takes is, like I follow, when I run it through the saw, I'm very careful of the back of the bow, that the back of the bow is straight. And it just takes a little bit this way or that way, and now you made a kitty bow. All right, you're better off, like I said, it's safer. You're better off using hand tools, okay? All right? And then like I said, if you're going to do like I do, make sure you go to somebody that's got a good shop and learn. Okay, you see I got the belt sander out. I wanted to tell you I tapered these limbs from 10 inches down to 3/4, okay? 3/8 on each side, all right? And the reason is, as I sand it, or you sand it, or whatever you're doing, you got some wiggle room. You could always make them thinner, okay? So the thing I do now, once I trim them, is I'm gonna sight down the stave. I'm gonna look down the stave, and I'm gonna see if one side is out compared to the other. And I'm gonna turn it around and look again. And since there's a twist in the limb, I'm looking and it really isn't that bad. The heating up of putting this on the backset jig will take care of that twist. And then once I put it on, fire harden it, okay, that will really, you know, take out the twist. It'll be permanent straight, okay? So things that I kind of learned myself, and I'm not an expert, I've been doing this since December, is I made the hickory, I love hickory, right? It's like really, really great stuff. But I made some bows that would tape it down to 18 inches up to skinny little tips. And the bows are the same weight with a thicker limb and a thinner limb. And people say it's faster. You know, I had a chronograph, I was playing around. Maybe it's a couple of feet per second faster, maybe. But what I did notice, if you're using a heavy hunting arrow, I don't know if it's just me or what, but it seemed like they hit harder. Like, because the limb was thicker and held more of the energy, it was able to transfer more energy to that heavy arrow, okay, and send that, transfer it to the string, to the arrow, downrange. It just seemed like the thicker limb hit harder, okay? So that's just my opinion. That's just what I observed. And now I'm going to sand this on the belt sander. Okay, I have a 40 grit belt on here. And what I'm doing now, my main goal is to take it down to the line on the belt sander. All right, and then what I do with the belt sander is, as I'm going and keeping my hand on the top, so I keep the back of the bow level, is by feel. I'm keeping it level, and I go with the twist, all right, because I know it's going to get straightened out. I will go into the riser a little bit carefully. I'm not causing a hinge, all right? I'm making sure it's flat, and I go in, and you'll see it'll come back a little, and this big riser will be a little shorter, all right? Let me put it on, and then I'll shut it off because it's noisy and you don't need to hear it. Okay, so that's what I do. I go back and forth, and I keep my hand to try and keep it level. Even if it was to twist, I would keep it level. And as I'm going back, you can kind of see as I'm going back, right? See how the belt's taking it down? Eventually, as I go down, it will be from the cut, it will transfer up, okay? And I won't make a hinge. I'm not going like this with it. I'm keeping it flush or even a little higher going into it, okay? So I'll show you as I progress. Yeah, I just want to show you what I did. I took it down, the thickness down. Actually going to go a little more. I know I said 5/8, but I actually going to want them like a 1/2 inch. Okay, so look, see how nice and smooth it is? I came down. And what I did was I kept hitting it in, right, with the belt sander, but not like this, flat or up even a little bit, okay? And where the center is, if you put your middle finger in the center and wrap your hand around, okay, you got to see if you got enough room for a sight window, if you got enough room to grip the bow, okay. I have a smaller hand and this bow is just for me. Like I said, I love the way that fire hardened bow came out the second time. It shoots hard. This wood is really hard and fast. It shoots incredible. Okay, so that's why I knew I was going to make a smaller riser to fit my hand. These limbs are only going to go down to a 1/2 inch. And then once you get that thickness you want, then it's okay to work on the sides. And be careful when you work on the sides. You know, if you're using a draw knife, like I said, when you lay this out, it should be a little thicker, and let the draw knife go along with the grain and take off material, okay? And then, you know, if it's straight grain, you can get away with using like the belt sander. All right? Watch you see the fly. There's a fly on this wood. Flies love this wood for some reason. All right, but anyway, so here's the draw knife, right? And gentle with the blade down. And you're just kind of going along and letting it catch whatever grain to get down to that line, okay? And take your time, okay? And if there's any doubt, okay, like I said, if you use a file or a rasp, go down. Okay, go down to the belly, don't go into the back of the bow. You don't want the back of the bow peeling up. Okay, and if it's close, sand it. Okay. Okay, see it a little bit over here. And then what happens is once you follow the grain, the knife will slide along the grain, okay? So, like I said, I'm no expert at this stuff. I'm only doing it since December, but I wanted to show you a little with the draw knife. You know, I can't tell you, oh, use the draw knife. If I don't show you, I could use the draw knife. And I'm going to go to the belt sander and now I'm going to take the sides down. Okay, what I wanted to tell you is, as I sight down the bow, okay, and I look down the bow, okay, I actually look down it from the center of the tip to the center of the tip. And even if it has a twist, I try to see if more material is to this side or this side. So if I'm looking at the skinny end as the taper is on the other end, and I say, oh, there's more material on this side and needs to go back to make it straight. Okay, flip it around and I look again to double check it. Yeah, okay. More material when I look down this to make it straight, tip to tip. The end taper has to come in a little more on this side, okay? And that's what I'll do. So first thing I do is I go back and forth and get these big flat pieces up to the taper, nice and level. And then I'll look down and I'll start taking the cuts out with the taper. And then I'll sight down it and I'll see, okay, this side needs to come in a little bit more, and I'll sand one side more than the other to try and, if you could understand that. So when I sight down it and I'm looking down, it's as straight as could be, okay? Even if I had to correct it by adjusting, taking a little material off the end, like this one here at the very end needs some material taken off here. So I'll go back and forth, and then I'll check it out again, okay? I hope you can understand that, but that's what I do and it works for me. I'm not saying, you know, like I said, I'm just showing you what I do. Right or wrong or indifferent, that's what I do, and I'm just sharing it. When I laid out the tip, I made it 3/8 on each side of center. And then when it comes time to sand it and taper it, okay, the goal is to make it like a 1/2 inch for me, okay? And then when you rough sand it all, be a little thinner, but a 1/2 inch is kind of the goal as I'm sanding it down on the belt sander and tapering it. I want it nice and smooth down to a 1/2 inch. And you always need a little more material to take off material. And once again, now I sight down the shaft even though it's got a little twist to it. And I look and I see if anything needs to be, sometimes you may look down and you'll say, oh, right here needs a little material taken off. And you could just take off a little material there, and you'll be good, okay? You want it as straight as possible. You want this, like I said, this is going to be a great bow. No knot, no big humps in it, you know, like big hump, you know, like the big hump bow I made. And this is going to be a really sweet shooting hunting bow with no flaws in it, okay? Because what I do is I don't know why, you know, like, I guess because I have kids and I always, you always do for them and not for you, you know what I mean? Well, when I got these staves, I always pick the crappiest piece out for me. And I'll work that and try and make a bow out of it. I save the better ones, well, like I have a couple people making bows. You know, it's just the way I am, you know, it's just the way I do things. But now, after I made that big hump bow, and I see how hard-hitting this hop hornbeam is, it's an incredible fast wood. It really is. I'm so impressed with it. It's a pain in the neck to work with because I've had it, you know, like, not flaking, but I had the grain slot on the side popping off and different things. You know, it could have been because I picked the worst piece of wood too, but you know, but once it was done, and I learned from Keith Shannon to fire harden it until it's brown, even in the fade outs, brown in the fade outs, and how to check the heat and all. This is going to be an awesome bow. This is for me. So once in a while, I do for me. I pick a pretty good stave out for me this time, and this is going to be my perfect bow. Okay, I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. The other one was big hump. This may be my perfect bow if it comes out perfect. Okay, it might be the perfect bow. So we'll see. All right, and that's all I wanted to really show you was how I trim them up and shape them up and line them up today. Today was like a shape your stave day. And the only other thing I'll just tell you quickly, if you have a back set jig, okay, and you have raw wood, like this is raw wood, and you clamp it on the back set jig, start clamp in the middle and then use heat to work your way out to bend it to conform. Like, I know, like hickory, you could just bend it down and clamp it, but I don't like doing that. I like using a heat gun as part of my process because I'm removing moisture. I'm removing moisture as part of the process with that heat gun. Making the wood bend and conform to that jig rather than forcing it. And then once it's on that jig, that's the jig I'm going to fire harden with it. All I do is I'll flip the clamps around, okay? Flip the clamps around so that the screws are not hanging in the fire. I just flip them 180 degrees. Okay, one at a time, so, you know, you don't lose that back set. Okay, that's it. Watch my other videos on Bear Bow Joe. And if I make this perfect hunting bow, maybe we'll go outside. I'll show you shooting it, okay? You saw me tiller it. You know, how many videos am I going to make of you watching me tiller the bows? And the one with the hump, yeah, it looked like a hinge. Was it a hinge? Yeah, maybe it was a hinge. A lot of it was optical illusion because it had a hump. But the process is the same. Slow and easy. Get it to bend. See where it's not bending. Okay? So you don't need to see me do that again. You can watch my other videos. So, stave day. Thanks for watching.